Hello, 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 hello. Hello, lovely humans. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, 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 welcome to my channel, or welcome back. If you're already a subscriber. If you're not, I would love to have you join. I have my hair desperately needs washed, so it's like a situation. But I also, for some reason, I have a little stand that I put my phone on to film. Cannot find it. Trying to get my phone set up was a 10-minute process. I'm literally sweating. So hopefully I find my little phone stand soon. And hopefully the phone doesn't fall down a million times during this video. But anyways, you're not here to hear about that. You're here to listen to my March wrap-up. For sure, March has been my best reading month of 2022. Little stats for you from my handy dandy book journal here. So in March, I read 10 books for me, which I think is an all-time high. I think. My average rating came out to be 3.5 stars, which is really high for me. We read a total of 4,006 pages in March. However, I'm actually going to talk about 11 books today. This hair is literally driving me insane. Okay. I'm actually going to talk about 11 books because the 11th book I read in March, I finished on April 1st. But the whole last week of March was me reading that book. So I feel it's more appropriate to include it in this video than in my April. But anyways, I just got my nails done yesterday. Okay. And if you've been here before, you know that I do get a lot of my books in the library, so I don't have the physical copies of all of the books, but I'll tap on the ones that I've got with me. So the first book I read in March was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Did you put your name into the Goblet of Fire? If you know, you know. If you don't know, I probably sound insane. Also, you might know from my past wrap-ups, I don't rate the Harry Potter books because they are goated. Nothing will ever compare to the childhood and nostalgia and genius writing of the Harry Potter books. I will stand by that. But yeah, I am ranking them though. I'm doing a spread in my book journal about the Harry Potter books, and I will say Goblet of Fire is up there. Goblet of Fire was pretty fire. I liked it a lot. More than I remembered. I definitely wouldn't say I remembered it as being one of my favorite Harry Potter books, but I feel it's better now. I don't know. Literally so good. The whole Triwizard Tournament, the way it's written is so fun, so fast paced. I know these books inside or out. I know what's going to happen. And I still feel so excited and so I'm so anxious to find out what happens, even though I literally know. They're just so good. So moving on. Sorry, I've got a little stack over here, but they're not in order. Next, I read Finley Donovan is killing it. Finley Donovan is killing it. Finley Donovan is killing it by El Cosimano. So this is not a typical kind of book that I like. I love murder mysteries, thrillers, that kind of thing. But this is very like lighthearted. It's got like a big comedic tone to it. I think it's Books and Lala that like convinced me to read this book, but I follow so many booktubers that have talked about it, and I finally was like, okay, fine, I'll read it. And I'm so glad I did. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It was so well written, and I guess my expectation a lot of the times with like lighter books, like more comedic, or like with romance, anything like that, is that the writing is just not going to be as good, and I don't really know where that comes from, but it was just so good. El Cosimano, so funny. I loved the characters in this book. If you don't know, this is about a woman who is very much down in her luck, a single mother. She's like a novelist, but she's struggling, she's behind, she's like out of money, and basically she is explaining the plot of her book that she's working on, which is about like an assassin, basically. And she's explaining the book to her, I think it's her publisher, her editor, or something like that, in like a Panera. And a woman overhears and thinks that she's an actual assassin, so, like a headhunter. So she hires her to like kill somebody, and Finley is desperate and just kind of gets roped into it, and it's honestly like so good. I think the second book, I don't know if it's going to be a series. Right now there's just 2 of them, but the second book I think came out earlier this year, if not late last year, and I'm definitely going to pick that up in the near future. But that was Finley Donovan, and I love this cover, like the pink. I don't have like any pink books, and again, I think that's because I don't read romance, and I feel like most of the books that I have like darker covers, but yeah. Okay, next, I don't have with me, I read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I had never read this book. It was my first time. I'm very slowly starting to read some of the classics. There's a few classics I've read. I think maybe more than like the average person, like all the ones for school, and I've read a couple of others. And there's a few that I really like, but they just seem really intimidating. And I like to enjoy like reading. I like to read for fun. Like I'm a student, so I do a lot of intense reading. But I'm making my way through them, and I'm so glad that I read this. So I'm not really gonna explain it, just because like it's classic, and also it's kind of hard to explain. So if you know, you know. If you don't, go read it. I ended up giving this 4 stars, but I will say I think I will definitely reread this one, and I think I'll enjoy it more the second time, because I felt like I had no idea what the fuck was going on. I was like, the writing was beautiful, and it was a really interesting story, but some of the language, I mean, I think this came out in the 1880s, 1890s maybe, definitely 19th century, and I was like, it was just a little bit hard to follow. I mean, it's pretty accessible as far as classics go, in my opinion, but like the plot, like there's definitely like a big twist, and once I knew what was going on, I was like, genius, loved it. Like halfway through I was like, this is a 2-star, and then by the end I was blown away. So it was a 4-star, but I think as a reread it would be a 5-star, because I think this is one of those ones that if you know the ending going into it, it's like a better read. I don't know, we'll see. But I feel like, you guys know that TikTok that's like, something's going on, I'm gonna get to the bottom of it. Do you know that TikTok? That was me the whole time I was reading Dorian Gray. But yeah, 4 stars. Okay, next I have All's Well by Mona Awad. I love this cover. This is like textured. I don't know if you can hear the texture or not. So beautiful. It's stunning. Okay. So I think her more popular work is Bunny. And if you've watched my wrap-ups from last year, I detested Bunny. Abhorred and detested. I hated Bunny. I think I gave it 1 star. I only kept reading because I just had to know, like, how it ended. But I literally hated it. And I was like, I'll never read another Mona Awad. Like, I just don't get her. I feel like you either love it or you hate it. But this was too much my vibe to not read it. This is about a college, like, theater professor, theater director. And it's very Shakespearean, as you can see. She wants to put on All's Well, the Shakespeare play. They don't, the students, they want to put on something else, so they, like, stage this, I don't know, it's like a coup. They're like, we're not gonna do that. And this just is so explorative of, like, mental health. It's also has, like, it's very chronic illness visibility, which I've actually never read a novel that centers a chronically ill character. And it was so, I mean, it was heartbreaking, but, like, so riveting. Just hearing that, like, first person narrative of what it's like to have a chronic illness as an adult, like, trying to function, but while also struggling with mental health. Very just, like, multifaceted. It's also, if you are not a Shakespeare person, you can definitely still, like, get it, but there's just a lot of, like, Shakespeare innuendo and just a lot of, like, niche Shakespeare humor. I feel like the more you like Shakespeare and are into it and familiar with his work, the more you'll like the book, but you can definitely enjoy it without. I ended up giving this 3 stars. It still had the classic Mona Awad of, like, what the literal fuck is going on. Like, it has, like, elements of magical realism. It's just very, like, unbelievable and very, like, shocking, which is, like, her whole thing, right? But yeah, I did like this. And then I did watch, like, a YouTube interview with Mona Awad about this book after I read it to get, like, a better understanding. And watching her in an interview makes me like her more, so I think I will continue to read her work. Maybe Bunny was just, like, a complete flop for me. Maybe it was a little too weird. I don't know, but 3 stars. And I just am obsessed with, like, the cover, and it's just beautiful. Okay. Next, I read Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. Again, if you've watched my other wrap-ups, you'll know that I am a Gillian Flynn stan. I have now read all of her works. She's got 3 novels and a novella. And her last novel was it Gone Girl or Sharp Objects? Either way, her last novel came out in, I want to say, 2016. And girl, it's 2022. Like, where are you? Does anybody know? I should have looked into this. I need a new Gillian Flynn stat because you already know this was a 5 star. I would die for her. Gone Girl, the OG, like, thriller, unhinged, female, amazing. And Sharp Objects was, I think in my top 3 of 2021, if not top 5. I don't remember. I know I gave it 5 stars. This was a masterpiece. I don't know if I liked it better than Sharp Objects. It's definitely, nothing could beat Gone Girl, but, like, this was so good. It's about, it's essentially about a girl, well, she's a woman in modern times, but basically when she was a young girl, her entire family was slaughtered, and her brother was convicted, and is, like, in prison for murdering her family. And basically she kind of wants to, like, well, she doesn't care, but basically there's like a society or like a club kind of thing that has like conventions where they're basically like obsessed with like true crime, which, like, aren't we all? And basically, like, one of the members of that club contacts Libby, who's the main character, who's like the survivor of her family's slaughter. They contact her, they want to do interviews, they want to find out like who really did it, because there's a lot of like conflicting evidence, and like a lot of people don't think it's the brother. And yeah, there's like a lot of, I mean, it's obviously very dark just from like what I said about it, but there's like a lot of like satanic ritual type of things, like Satanism. And I read horror and I read thriller, but I haven't read a lot of like satanic culty stuff, and I want to read more because I love cults. I mean, I love to hate cults. That's better. I don't love a cult. Please don't indoctrinate me into your cult. I don't want to. But I would read anything that she writes. I would read anything she writes. Gillian and Flynn is so good. But like, it's conclusive, so you actually get an ending. It's not up for interpretation, really. It's chilling. Like, it like makes your stomach turn. It's very, all the things you want from like a thriller or horror. I just loved it so much, and I definitely see myself rereading it at some point. Okay. Next, I read Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix. Again, I'm not going to talk forever about the Harry Potter books because I feel like everybody and their freaking brother has read them by now. But the Order of the Phoenix was opposite of Goblet of the Fire, where not that it wasn't as good as I remember, but I feel like I remember liking it so much more when I was younger. And like, to me, Goblet of Fire is so much better than Order of the Phoenix. And this one is long. Order of the Phoenix is long. It's like 900 pages or something. I think it's probably the longest book I've read ever. But like, it's goated, can't be rated, but like, it's really starting to get dark, y'all. Like, Harry Potter and friends, they're grown. They're really out here fighting the Dark Lord, and I'm here for it. And I'm currently reading Half-Blood Prince. I started it last night. I'm like 300 pages in because I have no chill. But yeah, I don't have much to say about Harry Potter. I have everything in the world to say about Harry Potter, but like, that's it for right now. If you guys want me to make like full in-depth Harry Potter videos and ranking them and talking more about the videos juxtaposed with the movies, I could totally do that, because Harry Potter, I think, was my very first special interest as a child, and I like have an absolute freaking wealth of knowledge about the series. Moving on. Next, I read The Girls in the Garden. By Lisa Jewell. Okay. This was my second or third Lisa Jewell, and I was a little bit disappointed. Only because the other Lisa Jewells I've read have been so good. I think maybe I only read one. Maybe I only read The Family Upstairs. I'm not sure, but I know I gave it 5 stars. And this was just like, it kind of didn't make sense to me. It's basically about this like single mom and her 2 daughters, so the sisters. They just like moved to a new house that like opens up into a park, and it's kind of this whole like park community. It's like super tight knit, like nosy neighbors, like Desperate Housewives kind of vibes, where like everybody knows everything about everybody else. And we know that something really bad happened to the girls, and like something happened that made them move out there, something involving their dad. We know that the dad is like either like we know he's not dead, but we know he's either like sick or like mentally unwell. We don't know in the beginning, but there's a lot of like, what I did really like is that some of the format is that there are letters that the younger sister is like writing to the dad, and they have like cute little drawings, like the way like little kids draw like stick figures and stuff, and it was honestly really cute. And I did like that aspect. I love that format of like, I would say it was like 70% like story, 30% letters. So it's like mostly story, but the letters just really add like a whole new side of it. And it was good. It was, the ending that I wanted is not the ending that I got. I will say, I mean, it is a little bit unpredictable. Like, I was kind of like, oh, okay. But like, I had basically thought of a bunch of different possible endings, as one does during a thriller, and all the ones that I thought of I liked better than what Lisa Jewell actually went with. There were a lot of loose ends that I felt like could have and should have been tied up that weren't, where I'm just kind of like, hello. But yeah, I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. I'd recommend it, but I've read other Lisa Jewells that are better, and I think I'm gonna continue to read more Lisa Jewell books that will continue to be better. Okay, next I read The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Okay, you guys, this is my first Neil Gaiman, and I have one question. What the fucking fuck? Okay, first of all, 2 stars. I understand that like he's weird and he does a lot of like fantastical things. Like, I know he wrote like American Gods, Good Omens. I have Coraline on my shelf, which I will read at some point. So I know that none of his, like all of his books are kind of like out there, meaning like sci-fi, like horror elements. But this was like, I feel like it was so packed full for how short. I mean, this is like 170 pages for how short and small this was. I feel like it either needed to have less stuff in it or be longer. And what I mean by that is just that like there was so much in this book that I felt like I was getting like whiplash. Like, there's no explanation, which like I get it. I don't need him to hold my hand while I read it, but I was just like, bruh. Like, I don't know. I just felt like it was all over the place. And like, it's kind of like dual timeline. Like, it starts in the present, and then like the whole book is like this retelling of the protagonist's past. But like, it didn't really tie in together with like the present day. I just didn't really get it. I don't know. Does anybody else read this and feel this way? I just didn't like it. Now I feel hesitant to read more of his stuff. I'm gonna read Coraline because I know the story, because I've seen the movie, but like, this just wasn't for me. So is Neil Gaiman not for me, or was this not for me? Please tell me, because most of his other books are a lot larger and I don't want to go into them if I'm gonna be a hater. So 2 stars. I'm good. If I hadn't already bought Coraline, I don't know if I'd read it because of that, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Okay, next. We only have 3 more. So I know this is kind of long. Okay, next is The Push by Ashley Audrain. Oh, I love the sounds of this one. It's giving rain. Okay. I have been wanting to read this for ages. I've literally heard so many good things about it. I'm trying to think. There's a booktuber I watch that has talked about this multiple times, and I love her. I want to say her name's Taylor. If I remember her, I'll put her channel in the description, but she's so tingly and so good, and she reads a lot of thrillers. And I've heard her talk about The Push so many times, and I was like, okay, I'll read it. This book was literally so unsettling. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. So unsettling. If you have a child, if you know any children, if you ever want to have children, this book will absolutely shake you up. Like, I'm scared, because what if I have a child and my child is demonic? Here, I don't ever read the backs of books because that's so boring, but I will read the last sentence. The Push is an utterly immersive novel that will challenge everything you think you know about motherhood, what we owe our children, and what it feels like when women are not believed. That's all you need to know. All you need to know. All you need to know. If you like thrillers and feeling unsettled and getting that like chilling feeling, The Push, The Push, The Push, The Push, The Push. I'm pushing you to read it. The Push. Pow. Push, 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 push. Push, 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 push. Push, 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 push. Okay. Two more. This is what happens when I read too much in 1 month, and then my wrap-ups are long. Okay. Next, I read The Real Lolita, The Kidnapping of Sally Horner, and the novel that scandalized the world. Sarah Weinman. Okay, so this is the only non-fiction that I read this month, and it was good. I gave it 3 stars. So, I personally tried to read the OG Lolita by Nabokov, or it's by him. I mean, it's a classic. Everybody knows it. It's very infamous. I tried to read Lolita, and it was so absolutely grotesque and disturbing that I DNF'd it. And yeah, if you, for some reason, are unfamiliar with Lolita, it's basically, it's from the perspective of a child molester and groomer that pursues a relationship with a literal child. And it's from his perspective, and it's over multiple years. He basically like kidnaps her. It's horrifying. And basically, Lolita was actually based on a real life girl named Sally Horner that was kidnapped, and yeah, very similar like type of deal, that she was preyed on, groomed, kidnapped, and was basically missing for like over 2 years, and came back alive, was found alive. Super interesting. I breezed through this. I made so many tabs and notes, but it is a library book, so after I made all my tabs, I typed everything up in a document that I wanted to keep and took all my tabs out, because I don't want to make the poor librarians do it, because that's mean. So like the first half of this book, A+, 5 stars. Second half of this book just dragged. It was a little too much. Like, they basically took you through the entire story of Sally Horner, made the comparisons to Lolita, but then that was over like halfway through the book, and it just like kept going about like Nabokov's life, his wife's life, his child's life, his life before writing the book, during writing the book, after writing the book, publicity, opinions on the book. And I was just like, I don't care. Like, the whole thing could have just been like Sally Horner and her story, and how Lolita was derived from her story. There was just like too much, wasn't necessary. It was just a lot going on, but concept I loved, and that whole beginning I loved, and it was really interesting, and it was a really good way to like digest Lolita without having to actually read Lolita. So if you've read Lolita, I would definitely recommend this. If you've not read Lolita, but it sounds interesting to you, but you don't want to read it from the perspective of a child molester, then I recommend The Real Lolita. And if you're into true crime, you'll enjoy the story of Sally Horner, which is just like completely tragic and horrible and so sad. Okay, so the last book that I technically finished in April, on April 1st, but I read pretty much the whole thing in March, is boom, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It is about time that I read this big chunkaroon. Okay, here's the deal. 3 stars. I loved the beginning. I loved the ending. The middle dragged. I was so over it. There was a lot of tension, a lot of awkwardness, and I think a lot of that was done on purpose because the book does center around like a friend group kind of in college, like the OG Dark Academia. This book came out in the 90s. And like the entire friendship dynamic is awkward, it's tense, and so she really makes you feel that. But like, this book is 600 pages. It does not need to be more than like 450. It was just really bulky. It almost felt pretentious just for the sake of being pretentious, and I didn't really like that. It was just like, it was a little slow moving, and I started to get like in a slump, and like I started to like feel like I was over it, and I just wanted it to be over. However, the ending, spectacular. I definitely recommend it. Just push through the middle because it's 100% worth it. And like I said, I gave it 3 stars because really there was too much of the book that was like a chore to get through for me to rate it any higher, even though I do really like the book and I would recommend it. But yeah, I just love Dark Academia. I love Dark Academia, but like Donna Tartt, I just wanted it to be a little bit faster. I just needed it to be a little bit faster. But very glad I read it, and I would recommend it if you've not read it. So that is the end of my very long wrap up, my 11 books that I just talked through. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you've read any of the books that I mentioned, please leave your thoughts on them below. Let me know if you agree. What was your number 1 read of March? What's a book you read in March that you hated? What did you DNF? What are you reading in April? Please, I want to hear all of your bookish opinions or your non-bookish opinions. Whatever you want, just leave it for me. I would love if you would subscribe if you've made it this far. And thank you so much for hanging out with me, for listening to my rambles. I hope that you are staying safe, happy, and healthy. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you guys next